Hello, and welcome to The Real Deal with Dee and Denise. I am Dee.
And I am Denise.
And today we are going to cover some of the most recent congressional corruption scandals before we move on to two takes and a fifth. On the last episode, we talked about some potential candidates for Speaker, Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, even Donald Trump. We've talked about the House updates, the Speakership debacle, Republican peddling of misinformation, the deal with Steve Scalise, and now let's talk about some congressional corruption. George Santos, he is a New York Republican congressman, and he is facing a new 23-count indictment for stealing the identities of campaign donors and using their credit cards without authorization. He charged over $44,000 to his campaign using contributors' credit cards and transferred some of that money to his own personal bank account, inflating his campaign funds. Santos is also accused of falsely reporting a $500,000 campaign loan to the Federal Elections Committee, the FEC, when no such loan existed, aiming to gain financial support from the Republican Party. And these charges only add to his existing legal troubles, which include previous indictments for misusing campaign funds, embezzlements, and making false statements. Despite these mounting charges, Santos has refused to resign and intends to run for re-election next year, calling the investigation a witch hunt. Where have I heard that before? And let me also just say, this is a man who lied on his resume when he was running for office. Denise, what are your thoughts?
See, first of all, this stuff about covering up for criminals. Listen, as much as I love Barack Obama, and when he came on the scene with his swaggerlicious self, and I just, so many of us was just like, yay, this is new, this is fresh. If there was some verifiable information about Obama that meant he should not have been in office, I would have pulled my support of him instantaneously.
Immediately.
It would have been no question. It would have hurt my heart. But I would have said, I can't support this dude. Look at what they found on him. He ain't getting my support. I don't care who he is. But not the Republicans. Look at how fast we tossed Al Franken out of office with what he did. And I used to love me some Al Franken.
Okay. We'll talk about Bob in a minute because we're not morally corrupt. But anyway, please continue.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So here they knew with all the stuff before this guy even put his buns in the seat. George Santos. They knew about all the stuff with him, but what they do, they kept turning a blind eye. And all of this foolishness they were saying, knowing full well that it was true what they said about him. Now you're going around stealing people's identities and you're charging their credit cards without authorization, and you're looking like a complete and total fool. And he's coming out of a meeting last night. I haven't seen all that. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, then you start talking, witch hunt. We don't need these distractions. They're only Democratic distractions, liberal distractions. The people sent us here to do a job. No, the people did not send you there to do a job. You lied and got yourself sent there because they thought they were sending somebody else there. I am so tired of this deception because the Democrats are quick to kick theirs out. And I appreciate that from them because anybody that is a liar, a thief, or a deceiver in any way has no right to be in our government. But the GOP will coddle theirs and they will find a way to just sweep it under the rug. Right. We just need your seat. We need you to keep your buns in that seat. Shut your mouth.
Right. Like Jim Jordan, who Trump endorsed, covered up sexual abuse of, I guess they're not technically children because they were college students, but young people nonetheless, covered up the sexual abuse that was going on there. And this man is still a congressperson to this day. And, so it's really no surprise to me that Trump endorsed him, like one sexual assault offender to another.
And I'm they high-fiving each other, taking notes from each other.
Man. And then George Santos, not only did he do all of those things, he was willing to throw his own family under the bus. The other thing that came out in the indictments Remember that? When he accidentally overcharged somebody's credit card too much, it was going to go over the FEC limit. So he had to try to split that thievery up. And he just used his family members' names without their permission, which is illegal. And had this stuff not come out, he opened up his own family members to potential criminal charges, and they didn't even have anything to do with it. I mean, not like you're willing to throw your own family under the bus, my guy. What else are you willing to do?
Under the bus. And it's like they knew this on day one. It was being reported on from day one. But because you need that power, because they can afford to lose one set of buttocks out of that chamber. They can't afford to lose one because they already got a race within majority. And they are so afraid. And you kept them there. You need to really get egg on your face for this. And so what are they going to, but the thing is, ultimately, what are they going to do? I got to tell you what they're going to do. George Santos is going to keep sitting right there in that seat. He's not going anywhere.
Right. How badly do you need to win that you're willing to destroy democracy and sacred American institutions?
And it's like, someone asked me recently about that, someone who never pays attention to politics. But she said, can you help me to understand why these people can look and see all this stuff on Donald Trump? And with all these different cases, he comes out and says, it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt. They only doing this because I'm beating the competition. They scared I'm going to beat everybody. 5 different cases, and it's all witch hunts. She said, I know that you understand politics better than me. Can you explain it? And the simple answer to that is some of these people know that Donald Trump has a whole lot of either real dirt on them or some fabricated dirt. But either way, he got some dirt on these people. And if they dare to go up against him or go against him in any way, he's not afraid for 1 second to use that dirt and destroy them. That's what he does best.
Right. And I mean, even more so, he doesn't even need to have dirt at this point because he has whipped up his base in such a way where he can just make any claim with absolutely no evidence, and it will be taken with and ran with. And that to me is the really scary piece. But I think there's something to be said about the responsibility of an elected official to defend the Constitution, to defend the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Like, could you imagine if Nixon happened today? I couldn't imagine anybody on that side of the aisle not supporting him. I don't think we would have seen him resign if this was today. I don't think, I've always been concerned about the state of Republican politics, but at least then they were able to come together to push somebody who was so corrupt out of office, and it just doesn't seem that there's a willingness to do that anymore.
It is not because it's so about power. You got all these special interests and these lobbyists. It's madness to me. It's really madness.
I know. So speaking of the corruption, though, we did mention earlier a name, Bob Menendez. And we also talked about how if somebody on our side of the aisle did something completely corrupt, illegal, and morally bankrupt, that we would never be okay with it. And here we are showing that to you. In a recent indictment, U.S. Democratic Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey and his wife were accused of accepting cash, gold bars, a luxury vehicle, mortgage payments, and more in a corrupt relationship with 3 businessmen from their state, allegedly benefiting Egypt. These charges include providing sensitive U.S. government information and pressuring officials to favor certain business interests. And this is the second time that he's been indicted on federal bribery charges, with the previous case ending in a hung jury. So we did not determine that he wasn't guilty. there was just a mistrial. There is the assumption of innocence until you are proven guilty. However, that does not mean that you need to be an elected official carrying out official duties of the United States government while that plays out. Yeah, you're innocent, but your conduct that I can see as a citizen, as a constituent, as a voter, that I can see that is laid out by prosecutors in these indictments is disqualifying in my mind as someone that I would think about voting for. So, Denise, what are your thoughts on that?
My thought is this: this ended in a hung jury, again, as you stated, this did not say that you were innocent or did not, do what you've been accused of, that you didn't commit these crimes. You should, at that point, one, just went ahead and resigned, or two, walked the straight and narrow at that point, straighten up your act at that point. Okay, that should have been enough for you to straighten up your act. But no, they pushed their luck. They continue to do it until they get thrown in jail. It's like, okay, nothing happened when I did that, so let me try again, or try something bigger next time.
It emboldens them.
Exactly. So you keep doing it, and here we are. And Democrats are right to say, get him out of here. Get him out of here. We don't need him. The governor of New Jersey is calling for his resignation.
I think we both call for his resignation too.
Yes.
So
goodbye, sir.
Exactly.
We're sick
goodbye,
of you,
sir. He is up for re-election soon. So hopefully, if the House doesn't sort it out, or I'm sorry, that if the Senate doesn't sort it out, or if he doesn't resign, hopefully the voters will make a good decision for us. So, New Jersey, do the right thing.
Yeah, dude, that's my home state. Yes, let's go. Get him out of there.
Is it your home state, Denise? I did not know that. I was also born in New Jersey, and I lived there for 10 years, and my dad still lives there now.
What part of New Jersey?
Essex County, Fairfield.
I know where Essex County is. I lived in Cumberland County. Down there, I was about 45 minutes from Atlantic City one way, 45 minutes from Philly another way, 45 minutes from Delaware another way.
That's right.
I was in Vineland. So yeah, that's my home. My daughter's still there. My son and I brought my son down here in the early part of 2000s. But yeah, my daughter is still there with her family. So, but
to all my family in New Jersey who may or may not be listening to this podcast, please vote for the person that is running against Bob Menendez in the Democratic primary.
Please do. Get him. It's time for him to go. I mean, we got to do better. Because like I said, I used to love Al Franken. That guy would sit in the Senate and tear some stuff up. I was really sad when they kicked him out. But, if he did something wrong, he needed to go.
Like we said, you do something wrong, you take the consequences for that.
You have to take the consequences. You're absolutely right. And it's not too many days that go by that you don't see in the news where some Republican lawmaker somewhere isn't arrested for something almost on a daily basis. But I don't know.
I know like several cases that came to mind, but I will spare our listeners.
Yeah.
So, all right. Speaking about this corruption, though, let's turn briefly to the deal with Trump. We've got an update on the $250 million New York civil fraud case that emerged after Alan Weiselberg's testimony. But we will be doing a deeper dive into the Trump corruption, the court cases, the ongoing legal battles. So we'll just have a brief conversation about it, but Denise, do you have anything you want to say right off the bat? Because I see those gears turning in your head over there.
It excites me, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't excite me to see somebody lose. But this is exciting to me to see because, and then another thing that's happening is, so, you see, he runs his mouth so much when he said that they undervalue his Mar-a-Lago property. And he says the Mar-a-Lago property is really worth billions, and they said that it's worth 15 million or something. He says it's really worth billions. And so now you got a Democratic lawmaker who said, oh, really? Well, now, since we've been undervaluing you, then that means we've been undertaxing you. You haven't been paying enough taxes. So I'm just loving this because he's getting hit from all sides, just like everywhere he turns is pow, pow,
It is
pow.
really exactly. It is just so bonkers. Like in the civil fraud case in New York, he was inflating his assets in order to get bigger loans from banks, but deflating his assets in order to evade taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to sit there and say, oh, well, sure, maybe, but I paid all the money back to the bank, so no harm, no foul. All right, listen here, buddy. This is how the law works. This is how stuff works in real life. If I worked for, I don't know, Burger King, and I walked in and at the end of my shift, I took $100 out of the cash register so that I could use it to go to the casino. And then I go to the casino, and let's say that I do great. I take that $100 and I turn it into $10,000. And then let's say not only do I slip the 100 back into the cash register, let's say I put 1,000 just for good measure. You know what? I still committed a crime because I stole the $100. Just because I gave the money back doesn't mean I didn't commit the crime. And that is exactly what Trump is trying to say. Okay, buddy, you still committed the crime. You still got to do the time. I'm just kidding. There's no time. It's a civil case, but you know what I mean.
And then he can't keep his yapper closed. He run that mouth. He just talk. And I just have to laugh because he just brings the comic relief because he don't get it. He just don't get it. I mean, you're losing your empire. The thing that makes you're losing it. The judge says, dissolve it, get rid of it, get rid of those business certifications. You're done. Because number one, New York is the seat of where all your your operating seat of everything that you do. New York. And you can't do business there anymore.
Right. And if you don't think that New York prosecutors know how to prosecute corruption cases in the financial capital, I mean, buddy.
We're talking about New York here.
Right. And he is so right. I'm sorry. We're talking about New York, not to be confused with the many other cases he has going on elsewhere.
Right.
But I would also say he's so blatant about it. Not only was he, doing this like inflating and deflating so that he could evade taxes and do all this other shady, corrupt stuff. In Alan Weiselberg's testimony, he had to talk about why he changed the square footage of the property from 10,000 to 30,000 square feet. Like, it's not like he just like fudged a little number here or there. Like, he knew and had to admit out loud in court that he knew, Trump and Alan Weiselberg knew, that the apartment was only 10,000 square feet, and yet anyway indicated on this paperwork that it was in fact 30,000 square feet. So I don't know how this 20,000 square feet like appeared out of thin air, but if they thought that was just going to fly forever, I mean, you know what? And to be honest, it probably would have flown forever if Trump did not run for office and subject himself to this immense public scrutiny. It's the dumbest and worst thing he ever did.
2 points on that. Number one, don't forget he said he knows words. He knows all good words when he was running. Remember, he said he knows a lot of words. So I think those words like value, devalue, and all of this stuff. He knows all those good words, all the corrupt words to use. Okay, and secondly, he should never. The disqualifying thing from him from outset should have been the fact of the 5 bankruptcies. Because if they had disqualified
and not paying all of his workers
and not paying his workers and owing all of this outstanding money that he owed, he would have never been able to run for the presidency in the first place. And he would have still had all of his stuff and not have all these criminal cases coming against him that could put him in jail until he is dead. Okay. But no, he decided that the laws don't apply to him. And they let you go in. Nobody else could have went in with 5 bankruptcies because your financial status is looked at. You have to give tax returns. You have to provide tax returns for so many years. He did none of that. He did none of that.
I was going to say, no, he did not provide his taxes.
He did not do that.
Against all precedent. I mean, Obama released his, Biden released his, George W. Bush released his, everybody ever, always,
Everybody,
except
Hillary Clinton,
for him.
except him. Remember, they're still auditing mine. Nobody audits tax returns for years.
And if they are, is it because there's something immensely corrupt in it? That raises even more concern for me.
Like, what do you really have going on to detect this law?
Right.
Mrs. Trump, she wants to renegotiate the prenuptial, or what they're calling the postnuptials now. Well, guess what? Guess what, girl? You're responsible for some of the stuff that's going on with this money too, because you are not in the clear here. Your hands are dirty too. All right, talking about that inauguration money that you stole and used for your own purposes, and then you had the audacity to say when y'all was leaving office, is there federal government money for former first ladies? Girl, you did nothing. Absolute girl. Why should taxpayers give you anything?
Oh, she did plagiarize Michelle Obama.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. The plagiarization. Yeah, she plagiarized that. And then you had on a jacket where you went around children that says, I don't care.
I really don't care, do you?
I mean, and you
actually, yeah, I do. I do actually care about the lives of these people.
Are you crazy? And then you're asking, is there money for you in life after the presidency? You're done. You better go. And then this money, it ain't gonna be no money for you. He's broke. Don't you know he broke?
He also, though, cares about almost nothing other than his image and his money.
And his money.
And like, if you, like, you would, I mean, this is a big deal because of his money and his organization and stuff. But when you're looking at the jail time that comes along with these other indictments that he's facing, for him to be so caught up and so upset and not showing equal regard for those cases really says a lot.
Well, I know you heard what he said recently about President Biden when he said, he goes to the beach and he wears this bathing suit, and I have a much better body than he does. He's 6'3". Remember, he's 6'3", 215 pounds. He's funny to me now, but he's too dangerous to be funny. He's just right. Dangerous. He's dangerous.
I actually just pulled up a list of
oh my god
athletes. So that means him, Larry Fitzgerald, Eric Gordon, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Gibson, Terry Bradshaw. Oh, okay.
To them, he's oh, come on. You're 6'3", 215. Yeah, okay. He's not all there. But I tell you what, the Eric is really, he's flipping out. And Don Jr.
He'll throw his kids under the bus too. Him and George Santos don't care about their families at all.
At all. Period. And I'm afraid the princess is not as free as she thinks she might be either.
I mean, her husband is super corrupt. We'll save the Jared Kushner stuff for the Trump episode, but we know.
I want to know if somebody give me a free $2 billion.
Again,
how do you do that?
I actually heard Trump the other day say, I don't think people understand how much $1 billion is. You're damn right. Okay, do you know how much $1 billion is? Because $1 billion, if you made $1,000 a day and spent 0 pennies and were never taxed since Jesus Christ was born, you would still not have $1 billion today.
Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Everybody was all up in arms when AOC said, I want to tax you 70% on every penny you make. Over 10 million, by the way. That's what people are leaving out. Over 10 million. She didn't say 70% tax rate on everybody. She said all the money up to $10 million, nope, no problems. Once you surpass $10 million, that's when I want 70% of what you got, because that's a lot of freaking money. And then people are talking about, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, this, that, and the other. It's if people work real hard to get all their money. First of all, if you're $1 billion,
pull themselves up by the bootstraps. They did.
If you're a billionaire, you did not make that money on your own. Even if you started with nothing, you did not make that on your own. Okay, Jeff Bezos, for example, you know who made you that money? All of the workers that make your company successful the way that it is. Because without them, you are nothing. And that is the same thing for every single person that is making that kind of money. And $1 billion is an astronomical amount of money that I think we really cannot even grasp. And that's why I wanted to throw in, that piece about if you made all that money since Jesus Christ and kept every penny of it, you still wouldn't have $1 billion, because nobody on this planet needs $1 billion, let alone multiple billions of dollars.
For them to spend it all in a lifetime.
Never. They make so much money just on interest of their own money that they can't figure out how to spend it all. And that's interesting, because I feel like you probably can just give more. But the point is, they just passively make this amount of money all of the time.
Absolutely. That is crazy, man. You said it so eloquently earlier. Nobody comes into that kind of success by themselves. Somebody helped you along the way. America didn't become the country it is alone. If it wasn't for the blood, sweat, and tears of the slaves, America wouldn't have the wealth that it has. When you look at Black people, would come up with inventions or ideas, and they couldn't even patent it for themselves or trademark it for themselves or put their own names on it. Somebody else, a white person, had to do it. And they got the credit for it, the money for it, and recognition for it and everything. So this country was not even, this country got where it got as a result of the people who helped put it there.
We would have nothing if it wasn't for, like you said, the blood, sweat, and tears of the people who were slaves then. I mean, and I literally mean everything. And I'm not trying to diminish, what the gravity of the situation that we're talking about, but even the speed, okay? That is not a damn thing. That has not been made better.
We joke. My white friends, we joke about that all the time, about the spices. Man, you just brought up something that I talked about my white girlfriends about recently. And she was like, I don't know what I would do without the seasoning salt, and about this and that, because my mom never used this stuff. I said,
I'm blessed with an Italian mother, so she gets some of that good stuff. Yes. But if not for that, man.
I love Italian food. And never been to Italy. It's on my bucket list stuff.
Let's go together. We'll do a special episode of the podcast in there.
That's right. Cover something live.
Let's go to Italy.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, Denise. So, I would really like to talk about what's the deal with Lauren Boebert. Denise, so why don't you kick us off? What's the deal?
My first time paying attention to Lauren Boebert was when she was running for that particular office. And then when she got in and I was like, who is this person? And what is she? She just did not fit. And this is not to knock her education or lack thereof. But when I found out, that it took her 3 tries to pass a GED to go into the House of Representatives, I didn't think that she would probably make a good representative. But this latest thing with her, the deal with her that's really bugging me is how her party's hypocrisy is so blatant. Because the whole world saw her behavior. This is an elected official sitting in a public space, vaping, groping a male companion, him groping her being so obnoxious that she's kicked out of this public space.
And not only just vaping in the face of a pregnant woman who asked her politely to stop.
And then there were children around as well. And then you go right out of there and give the staff the middle finger.
Mm.
And you the main one
And
of the.
said, "Do you know who I am?"
Oh
I
yeah, you
mean,
had to throw that
oh
in
my
there.
God.
You had to throw that part in there. Yeah, about do you know who I am? But then you are one of the main ones that stand on the floor of the house and say, "You're indoctrinating our children, transgender people," and talk about uh the people in drag. They've always been funny people. I used to love to watch RuPaul back in the day, and people like that. Flip Wilson way back when. But I'm saying she all those Miss Holier than thou, and the Bible says, and the Scripture says, and Jesus Christ, and you're sitting in a public arena rubbing a man between his legs and letting him rub all over you. But yet, the GOP, they're quiet as mice. They're saying nothing. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But had that been, let's say, Kirsten Gillibrand, or let's say if that had been Kamala Harris, or God forbid, any of the women on the or AOC, or any of the women on the Democratic side of the either aisle, it would have been the story of the century. They would still be talking about it right now. They need to throw her out. She is, she is not somebody that our children should be exposed to. That was soft porn. She's this, she's that. She's gonna have this terrible influence on our children. I hear nothing from GOP side of the aisle, and it infuriates me.
Something that I took away from there, when you say Miss Holier than thou, for someone that wants to be so holy, it's so striking that you have no idea what's in the Bible. Denise, help us unpack that.
She don't know what the heck she's talking about. She's making up stuff, just like her orange god. When they ask him about his favorite scripture, and he'll tell them that he like them all, that he don't want to highlight any of them. And then he talk about 2 Corinthians. There is no 2 Corinthians. It's 2 Corinthians.
How about beware of false prophets and those who come to you in sheep's clothing?
There
Did
you
she
go.
miss those Bible verses?
Of course you did.
Confused.
Of course you did. They can always it never ceases to amaze me how Republicans can always cite scripture and the Bible to justify treating people wrong, being prejudiced and biased against other people, wishing bad things on people. They can use the Bible for that, but they can't see themselves in the pages of the Bible. And I believe wholeheartedly that if Jesus Christ could stand amongst us right now, the group that he would reject most would be them.
Absolutely.
It would be them because they're hypocrites.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, but what I got from the Bible was love thy neighbor. That was like a really core message that I do not think translates for them. Meanwhile, they want to cherry pick, so they want to hate gays and transgender and people that are a part of the LGBTQ plus community. That's not love thy neighbor, first of all. Second of all, then they want to go and quote Leviticus, which, by the way, is the Old Testament. And I don't know, according to, Christian documents, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be following the New Testament and not the old one. However, even if we were following the Old Testament and we go back to Leviticus, first of all, in that same verse, it also says that you cannot, cut your hair, wear makeup, eat shellfish, wear clothing that has multiple different fabrics and stitchings and whatever. So there's that, because I know that she wears makeup. I see it on her face all the time. I know that she cuts and dyes her hair. I know she does all those things. She probably eats shrimp too. But further, it was actually a mistranslation. And what it actually meant was that men should not lay with boys, not other men. Men should not be pedophiles. Men should not attack children. Not that you shouldn't be gay. And so it is just absolute hypocrisy. It is cherry picking. It's a misrepresentation of faith and belief.
Well, one other thing that the Bible says too is that any man that professes to love God but hates his brother, then you don't love God. There's no way that I don't care if I disagree with the lifestyle of another person. My name is not God. I am not God. I am not Jesus. It's not my place to judge. It is my place to love. Because that person who just told a lie is that lie is just as bad as anything else. That deceptive act that you just engaged in is just as equally as bad as anything else. The Bible, there is no degrees to, as far as the Bible goes, there's no degrees to sin. Anything that's wrong is wrong, period. No matter, you can't say this is small and that's big. There's no such thing as that. And this is where they get it twisted. When you look at the Catholic Church over all these years and all these children that have been molested and raped and maimed and messed up over the years by these Catholic priests, but you don't call that out. But you want to call out everything that goes on in the LGBTQ community. These people are not bothering anybody. And any wrongdoing that they engage in, that's not your, you can't do anything about it. Where do you see that they are going any place harming children? They go to their nightclubs. They go there to dance, to enjoy each other, to, you know what I mean, do what they do, catch up with their friends. And what happens? Somebody go in there and kill them all up. You think that you're doing God a favor? You're doing God a favor by doing that. No, because the Bible also says, thou shalt not kill. Okay?
Right.
So, and I look at this, the hypocrisy that you bring. So if Jesus Christ was to stand his foot on this ground right now, and the GOP would be doomed. And they can say what they want. They'd be doomed.
Right. Absolutely. And according to the, I thought judgment was supposed to be reserved for God. It seems like they're passing a whole awful lot of judgment. I know Jesus said that what you do to the least of me, you do to me. And what he meant by that was, I am everyone and I love everyone. And everyone is God's children. And so for you to treat anyone poorly is to treat God that way.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, if we want to really look at the Bible, there are many things in the Bible that are so explicitly opposed to the actions that you're carrying out. You're judging others. I mean, wow, the hypocrisy is hard to unpack.
It is, and the Bible speaks to that. And another thing, somebody posted something on social media the other day that stood with me for a while, because they said, imagine having a faith that says they're all for having prayer in schools, but against school lunches. Make that make sense. I can't even begin to make it make sense. You say, okay, you took prayer out of school. We need prayer in school. We need prayer. But no, we can't feed that child. I worked in public school for 14 years. And it got to the point where if a child didn't have money on their account, if they didn't have money on their school account, that child could not get any food, or they would give them those were dry behind peanut butter sandwiches or whatever, and a piece of fruit. And the child would sit there and cry.
And like, I've seen like people, lunch ladies, lunchmen, whatever, take trays and throw it in the garbage.
Oh, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen that.
Wasteful, horrible,
throw it in the
humiliating.
Trash and let the child eat it.
Right. There is no world in which children eating should be a partisan issue at all, ever, full stop, period, done. Like, and personally, I was a recipient of free and reduced lunches. Personally, I qualified for reduced lunches, and it was monumental, life-saving. Like, and you know what? I'm gonna move past this topic, but for feeding of children, and again, these are the same people now, these that are all invested in this weird QAnon conspiracy about, I don't know, Pizzagate and stuff, and they want to say hashtag save our children. Okay, then how about you fucking feed them? How about you feed them?
And then when you look at the quality of the food they feed them, it should be free anyway.
So we've definitely covered we talked about some legal corruption, then we talked about some moral corruption. Thank you, Lauren Boebert, and honestly the rest of them. And I guess now we're ready to move into our two takes and a fake, unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, I think I'm good on that.
Before we move on, I love to add my lightheartedness. My friend Shamara shared something on Facebook recently that I thought you might like, or at the very least get a kick out of. And I think it fits right in with our conversation. She said, well, when she shared the post said, "Half holy, half hood, pray with me, don't play with me."
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That sounds like something I would say. I like that.
Well, staying in the Lauren Boebert vein here, last week we did two takes and a fake. We're going to do it again this week, except this time I'm going to give you 3 quotes from your favorite person, Lauren Boebert.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Think so? Yeah.
All right. Our first quote. "We need God back at the center of our country. It's time for us to position ourselves and rise up and take our place in Christ and influence this nation as we are called to do." Quote number 2. "Women are the lesser vessel, and we need masculinity in our lives to balance that so-called weakness." Quote 3. "The church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. I'm tired of the separation of church and state junk. That's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does." End quote. Which one is the fake, Denise? Bit tougher this week.
Yeah, you did make it a bit tougher. I'm going to say the first one.
All right, so I'm going to read this first one again. "We need God back at the center of our country. It's time for us to position ourselves and rise up and take our place in Christ and influence this nation as we were called to." That one was true. But actually, so were the other ones. I really threw you off this week, Denise. I was a bit mean. There is no fake. All of these
I know the other
are
two
Lauren
were real.
Boebert quotes.
Yeah, I know the other two were real.
It was a bit tough. As I was going through some of her quotes, I was like, I'm actually not really sure how I could make up something that might be unbelievable that she may have said. So I decided to throw you off a little bit this week.
And I'm going to tell you why the first one threw me off, because the other two I've heard her say before. And I think one of them she recently said, well, not long ago, I remember her saying something about the masculinity thing.
And for that to come out of the mouth of someone who also said that they're sick of this separation of church and state thing really concerns me, because now to me it looks like if she were given the reins of anything, that we would be in a religious takeover, which is in fact directly against the Constitution, whether she wants to believe that or not. The Constitution's First Amendment states, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof," which obviously has been interpreted to mean separation of church and state. But in this stinking letter that she's talking about, it was in fact talked about by our founding fathers. So I really don't know what argument she's making here.
She is, boy, she's a piece of work. God, she is. This is why it was what is his name? Ruben Gallagher, who the guy that's running against her. He has to defeat her.
Oh, yeah. And actually, so his name is Adam Frisch, and as a result of Boebert's Beetlejuice scandal, he has raised nearly $3.4 million and has gained over 100,000 new individual donors.
Oh, great. That's right. I had the names mixed up because the name I was just thinking about is the one running against Kirsten Sinema in Arizona. But yes, I'm glad to know, because she just only defeated him by something like 500 points.
546 votes. So she won with 50.06 of the vote, compared to Frisch, who had 49.89%. So we're really talking about less than a single percentage here. Not to mention, this whole debate, debacle, clown show that we've been seeing is during her first term. So voters now have a lot more information, not only about her recent scandals, but about how she conducts herself in an official capacity. And if I were a voter in her district, I would be majorly concerned. So she's incredibly vulnerable, and I am hoping that we're gonna see the end of this one.
Yeah, they have started putting billboards up about her too, about that Beetlejuice thing, and it is hilarious.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think the Beetlejuice incident is worth 546 votes. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's quadruple that. I think that I
At a
think that was the
minimum.
thing. Yes, I think that Beetlejuice thing is a thing that's going to do her in, because
Hmm.
first of all, she's done nothing in the 2 years she's been there. Her and Marjorie Taylor Greene, all they do is spend time finding a camera and running their mouth. I don't see how they have done
Yeah,
absolutely
and they're
nothing.
on crazy places like OANN and Newsmax, and like, since when are those credible places that an official government employee should go to? I mean,
And don't forget Steve Bannon. Therefore,
uh,
Green practically lives on his show, practically lives there, and you know, and that's another one. He's a whole another conversation for another time, because he's another one that should be locked up. All of those that Trump issued those pardons to should be in prison.
absolutely. I
You and
mean,
I would be.
I would, yeah. The Trump, Joe Aparo, I don't know how to say his last name. Joe Apiro, that was another person that he
Oh,
pardoned.
that sheriff. Yeah.
Never. Yeah, the sheriff. Never in a million years should that man have been sheriff, or should have been pardoned. Or sheriff, while we're at it.
Right.
But I mean, I don't have all of the list in front of me. I know he pardoned a lot of people. I'm not going to condemn all of them and say none of them should have been pardoned. But out of the ones that I'm aware of, I'm genuinely concerned about the decision to do that.
Absolutely. You know, and as we were talking about earlier about how Democrats will hold their people accountable, somebody asked President Biden that if his son is convicted, if he would pardon him, and he said no.
No, because of course he wouldn't.
He said no.
He's not, he might not be our favorite person, but he's not morally bankrupt. He's
That's
not
right.
corrupt.
He said he would not pardon him if he's convicted on these gun charges or whatever. But it does look like his lawyers are saying that they've done is unconstitutional, so they're taking that route with this. So I don't know how that one's going to turn out. But even if he is indicted, I hope it's for not any long term, or really harsh sentencing, really, because
Yeah,
you know,
and that's something that we'll be following closely on this podcast, I'm sure. But to your point, it's not that you don't want him to be punished harshly because you have some affinity for him or because
no,
you have some favoritism over him. It's because you have seen what other people charged with
right,
similar crimes
crimes,
go through, what they get charged with. And it is the amount of time this has taken, the public scrutiny. This is completely like we talk about, you know, the children of powerful people getting special treatment, and that is most of the times true. But in this situation, I think we're really seeing the other side of that, where Hunter Biden is being scrutinized in such a way that would have never happened, and he would not be
absolutely.
facing this kind of legal battle if his father wasn't who he was.
Absolutely. I mean, even some Republicans have said they've never known anyone with what he's charged with to even get a charge, let alone possibly
Right,
facing prison time. So
right.
yeah, so you can see where the unfairness in this is. So I mean, whatever happens, happen. But
And it really
you
shows the
know,
hypocrisy yet again, because we're talking about a gun crime for the most part here, and we're not really talking about a violent gun crime. What
no,
he did was lie on a form stating that he was not using drugs or any kind of illegal substance during the time he wanted to purchase this gun. However, he was, because he had, some issues with cocaine at the time. And so therefore he purchased and then had in his possession a firearm illegally, but he didn't do anything bad with this
no, he
firearm.
didn't. He did
Um,
not.
and so for these gun rights people, I mean, again, the hypocrisy is astounding.
And they do it openly and blatantly. Like, so what? Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're showing how hypocritical and partisan we are. So what?
Right.
That's a
And you
verse.
cannot
Okay.
govern like that. I mean, geez, oh man. All right. I think we could go on about a lot of these for probably ever. But all right. New episodes will drop about every week. You can find us on social media and tune in wherever you get your listening at TheRealDeal_pod. Again, that's TheRealDeal_pod. And if you enjoyed our episode, please hit those like, share, and follow buttons to stay updated with The Real Deal every week. If you have some comments, we would love to hear about them.